No alarms, no panic, just a quiet hum as the plane climbs through the clouds. Then, without warning, the floor buckles, the air screams, and in seconds, 346 people are gone. All because of one door. Not a bomb, not a storm, just a door that was never supposed to open mid-air. This is the story of how one design flaw, simple, overlooked, and warned about years earlier, destroyed an airplane, a company's reputation, and hundreds of lives. Let's rewind a bit. The 1970s were a wild time for aviation. Boeing had just dropped the 747, this absolute giant that turned air travel into a luxury cruise in the sky. Suddenly, every aircraft maker wanted their own big jet moment. Enter McDonnell Douglas. They didn't want to copy the 747. They wanted something faster, lighter, cheaper, a plane that airlines could fill on every route. Their answer was the DC-10. 3 engines, wide-body comfort, sleek design. The press called it the perfect middle child between the bulky 747 and smaller twins. To everyone watching, it looked like the future. Except, the future came with a deadline. Douglas was racing against Lockheed's L-1011, and every day lost meant millions. So they moved fast, maybe a little too fast. Corners were cut, testing was rushed, and in that haze of deadlines, one small but critical decision slipped through. The cargo door design. Now, for most planes, cargo doors open inward. That's simple physics. Cabin pressure at altitude keeps the door sealed tight. But Douglas engineers wanted extra cargo space, so they made the DC-10's door open outward. More room for luggage, more revenue per flight. Great idea, until you remember that an outward door relies entirely on mechanical latches to hold back all that pressure inside. If those latches fail, the door doesn't just pop, it blows off like a cannon shot. Engineers warned about it early. They spotted how the locking pins could look secure even when they weren't. A ground test in 1970 had already caused a door to burst open and collapse the cabin floor. The warning was loud, but it was buried under paperwork and corporate optimism. Fixing the flaw would take time, money, and headlines, 3 things the company couldn't afford. So they patched the manuals, told airlines to be careful, and pushed on. Fast forward to 1972. An American Airlines DC-10 leaving Detroit suddenly loses its rear cargo door mid-flight. The floor collapses. The pilots lose partial control. But somehow, through insane skill and luck, they land the aircraft. Everyone survives. It should have been the wake-up call. Engineers said, redesign it. Now, but once again, management said, we'll handle it internally. They didn't. 2 years later, the dice finally rolled snake eyes. March 3, 1974. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 departs Paris, headed for London. A brand new DC-10, over 340 passengers, mostly connecting from Istanbul. Families, students, business travelers, normal people on a Sunday afternoon. The jet climbs through 11,000 feet. The captain, Nejat Berkoz, chats with his crew. Everything feels smooth. Then, boom! A deafening explosion shakes the cabin. The rear cargo door has ripped away completely. Cabin pressure plunges. The floor above the cargo hold caves in. Rows of seats are sucked downward. Control cables snap like guitar strings. The pilots yank their controls, but the plane doesn't respond. Within 77 seconds, the aircraft rolls nose down and slams into a forest outside Paris at nearly 500 miles an hour. Everyone on board is gone. At first, people thought it was sabotage. It had to be. No one believed a brand new wide body could just tear itself apart. But the investigation painted a cruelly familiar picture. The same door, the same flaw, the same warnings were ignored. The locking mechanism was poorly designed. It could give a false locked indication even when not secure. A simple handle on the outside could be forced shut, bending metal just enough to make it look sealed. On the ground, that might not matter, but at 11,000 feet, the pressure differential turns that mistake into an explosion. And it got worse. The control cables ran right above the cargo bay, so when the floor collapsed, every major system snapped in an instant. One design choice triggered a complete chain reaction, the kind of mistake you only notice when it's far too late. In aviation, there's a saying, every rule in the book is written in blood. The DC-10 rewrote a few chapters. After the crash, regulators finally made the cargo door fix mandatory. Inspections got stricter. Communication between manufacturers and airlines tightened. But none of it mattered to the 346 people who paid the price first. And the company? McDonnell Douglas never really recovered. Their credibility sank, lawsuits piled up, and the DC-10 name became toxic. Even when the plane flew safely for decades after, the stigma never left. By the 1990s, Douglas was acquired by Boeing, a polite way of saying they disappeared. But in those few years, the DC-10 went from symbol of progress to symbol of arrogance. It proved that in aviation, the enemy isn't turbulence or weather, it's overconfidence. Every time you think you've mastered the sky finds a way to remind you who's in charge. After the crash, the world of aviation froze. Planes kept flying, but every takeoff carried a whisper of doubt. If a modern, state-of-the-art jet could tear itself apart mid-air because of a door, what else was waiting to go wrong? Investigators from France, Turkey, and the US combed through every fragment of wreckage. They found the cargo door blown clear of the fuselage, buried in the forest like a spent shell. The cause traced back to something painfully simple. The lock hadn't broken. It had been designed to fail if used wrong. The handle could be forced shut even when the latches weren't fully locked. That's exactly what happened. The ground crew, struggling to close it, unknowingly armed a ticking bomb. To make things easier, some had even filed down the locking pins so they'd slide in smoother, a shortcut repeated across countless flights until one day it wasn't harmless anymore. It's one of those tragedies that doesn't start with drama. It starts with routine. Someone rushing through a checklist, another guy under pressure, a company confident in a design that works most of the time, the kind of thing that only aviation can turn into a catastrophe. When the official report came out, it didn't just point fingers, it drew blood. The manufacturer had known about the flaw for years, so had the regulators. Everyone assumed someone else would fix it. It was a perfect storm of denial, bureaucracy, and pride. The result? 346 innocent people paid the price for paperwork. The tragedy didn't end in Paris. 5 years later, another DC-10, American Airlines Flight 191, took off from Chicago O'Hare. Just seconds after rotation, the left engine tore clean off the wing. The aircraft rolled, stalled, and smashed into the ground, killing 273 people. It was the deadliest U.S. air disaster at the time. Different cause, same airplane, same reputation. This time, it wasn't the cargo door. It was a maintenance shortcut. Mechanics used a forklift to remove the heavy engine instead of following the official procedure. That shortcut cracked a crucial fitting that failed during takeoff. See the pattern? Pressure, deadlines, improvisation. The same mindset that led to the cargo door disaster echoed through every decision. And this time, the FAA had no choice. They grounded every DC-10 in the US. The skies went quiet. For McDonnell Douglas, that grounding was more than an inconvenience. It was an obituary written in slow motion. Orders froze, investors panicked, lawsuits multiplied, engineers were demoralized. The DC-10 went from miracle machine to corporate curse. The irony is, the fixes actually worked. Once repaired, the DC-10 went on to fly safely for decades, hauling cargo, refueling jets, even fighting wildfires. But the damage was already done. The world doesn't remember statistics. It remembers wreckage, headlines, and funerals. Inside McDonnell Douglas, the fallout was brutal. A company that once built icons like the DC-3 and DC-8 was now fighting for its reputation. Innovation froze, projects stalled, and top engineers drifted to Boeing and Airbus. Every dollar meant for progress was swallowed by lawsuits and damage control. Meanwhile, Boeing's 747 kept soaring. Airbus was rising fast with its A300. Lockheed gave up commercial aviation altogether. And McDonnell Douglas, once a giant, was slowly fading into the background. When Boeing merged with them in 1997, it was really an act of mercy. The name disappeared from tail fins, replaced by Boeing's logo. The DC-10 lived on as a silhouette in the sky, but the company that made it was gone. And all of it, the downfall, the deaths, the decade-long reputation collapse, traced back to one design choice. An outward opening door. It's haunting to think about. The engineers who first proposed that design weren't careless. They were ambitious. They wanted efficiency, innovation, progress. But in their race to outbuild Boeing, they forgot the oldest rule in flight. You can't cheat physics. Air pressure doesn't care about deadlines. Metal fatigue doesn't respect budgets. Gravity doesn't wait for approval from accounting. In aviation, nature always wins the argument. After Flight 981, safety culture across the world changed forever. Redundancy became religion. Every latch, every cable, every sensor had to have a backup. Crew training improved. Regulatory oversight tightened. Planes became not just better, but smarter. Designed to fail safely, not catastrophically. That's the small silver lining of every tragedy in aviation. The next generation learns. Every rule written since then is written in memory of someone who didn't make it home. Today, the DC-10's ghost still flies, converted into cargo jets, firefighting tankers, even military refuelers. Its bones are strong. Its history, though, is unforgettable. When pilots walk by one on a runway, they see more than an aircraft. They see a lesson, a reminder that engineering isn't just numbers and steel, it's responsibility. A reminder that speed and profit are never worth one compromised bolt. So the next time you see a gleaming jet slicing through the sky, remember, it's not just technology keeping it up there, it's trust. Trust built on the mistakes of the past. Trust paid for in metal, memory, and lives. Because 346 people didn't die because of turbulence or fate. They died because someone decided that good enough was good enough. And in aviation, it never is. If stories like this make you think twice about how machines shape our world, hit that like button and stay tuned, because history's greatest lessons are often written in the wreckage we try to forget.